We have recently uncovered a staggeringly reckless campaign of Russian sabotage in Europe.
British prosecutors said Russia's intelligence services were behind a fire at a warehouse in East London.
A New York Times investigation found that Moscow used Brazil as a launch pad for its global espionage operation.
Western officials say Russia's goal is to create division in European society.
The KGB's days may be long gone, but fears of the state intelligence apparatus have not.
From its very beginning, the Russian Empire has always thrived on espionage. From ancient secret police that the Tsars used to the feared and deadly KGB, it seems that Russia has a history of spies and secrets. Now, years later, Russia has created a new spy agency that's more dangerous than ever. This new spy unit, known as the Department of Special Tasks, or SSD, has been born out of a need for countermeasures against Ukraine. Though it's still new, it has already racked up a long list of international crimes, deaths, and attempted murders. At this pace, it won't be long until it turns its head from Ukraine to the United States and the rest of the world. With this one move, Putin has brought the war from the battlefront to your streets, your neighborhoods, and your jobs. This is not an exaggeration. Towards the end of 2024, agents of this new spy unit even planted an explosive device on a plane to Britain. Fortunately, it caught fire at a DHL warehouse in Birmingham instead of on the plane.
Tom Costello is with us. Tom, this is quite concerning. What have you learned?
It really is. The explosives went off in DHL cargo hubs in Germany and Britain. Had a bomb exploded while the plane was in the air, the head of German domestic intelligence says the plane would likely have crashed.
A Western security official tells NBC News it could be a Russian operation to undermine support for Ukraine, and cargo flights to the U.S. and Canada could be targeted.
This wasn't even an isolated incident. The same thing also happened in Germany as well. If this is a sign of what's to come, then truly speaking, no one is safe. To better understand this new threat to global safety, let's dive into the history and functions of the Department of Special Tasks. What is this new spy agency all about? What threat does it really pose to Ukraine, America, and the rest of the world? Is this all bark, or has Putin finally managed to get the bite he needed to cause some actual damage on a global scale? Let's start by taking a deep dive into the fascinating history of espionage in Russia. This will give us a solid foundation to understand Russia's latest spy unit, the SSD. Trust me when I say that this is as interesting as Russian history gets. So, espionage in Russia goes back centuries, long before the SSD or even the KGB. In ancient times, Russian rulers had a network of informants and spies. These were used to gather intelligence about potential threats. One of the earliest instances of their use was during the reign of Ivan the Terrible in the 16th century. Ivan established the Oprichnina, a state policy that included a secret police force called the Oprichniki. Their job was to suppress dissent and to gather intelligence on the Tsar's enemies. The Oprichniki were notorious for their brutal methods, including torture and execution. As Russia expanded, espionage became essential for maintaining control and protecting state interests. By the 18th century, under Peter the Great, Russia developed a more organized intelligence network. Peter established the Preobrazhensky Prikaz, a government department responsible for internal security and intelligence. This department laid the groundwork for many future intelligence agencies. It focused on gathering information about foreign governments, military capabilities, and potential threats to Russia. During the 19th century, the Russian Empire faced many internal and external challenges. These included revolutionary movements and foreign enemies. To counter these threats, in 1826, Tsar Nicholas I created the third section of His Imperial Majesty's own chancellery. This secret police organization was given three tasks. It was to track political protests, spy, and gather intelligence on revolutionary activities. By performing these tasks, the third section played a crucial role in maintaining the Russian Empire's stability. This was especially evident during significant political and social upheavals. Before the KGB became the cornerstone of Soviet intelligence, other organizations laid the foundation for espionage in Russia. The Okhrana was one of the most significant of these. It was the secret police force of the Russian Empire established in the late 19th century. The Okhrana was responsible for stopping political protesters and revolutionary activities. They employed a wide range of tactics like infiltration, surveillance, and undercover operations. Their methods were often ruthless, and they were known for using dirty methods. One of these was the use of spies who would infiltrate revolutionary groups and push them to commit crimes. This would then give the authorities a pretext to arrest them. Despite their brutal tactics, the Okhrana faced numerous challenges in suppressing revolutionary movements. This was what ultimately led to the Russian Revolution of 1917. Now, videos like this about spies and assassinations and sabotage rarely get promoted. The algorithm suppresses them, and the Kremlin would love for them to disappear. So if you think this story matters, hit like and subscribe. It helps push this video past the silence and straight into the conversations Russia wants to avoid. After the revolution, the Bolsheviks established the Cheka. This was a secret police organization tasked with two things. These were the protection of the new Soviet government and fighting counter-revolutionary activities. Led by Felix Dzerzhinsky, the Cheka quickly gained a reputation for its brutal methods. This group was relentless in the pursuit of alleged enemies of the state. The Cheka played a crucial role in consolidating Bolshevik power during the Russian Civil War. They used tactics like mass arrests, executions, and forced labor camps to take out opposition. The Cheka underwent several transformations and name changes over the years, eventually becoming the GPU, or State Political Directorate, or later the OGPU, or United State Political Directorate. These organizations continued the Cheka's legacy of ruthless repression and intelligence gathering. They laid the groundwork for the eventual formation of the KGB. The KGB, or Komitet Gosodovstvenoi Bezopasnosti, was officially established in 1954. It was created to be the Soviet Union's primary security agency. The KGB was responsible for a wide range of activities. This included intelligence gathering, counterintelligence, internal security, and the suppression of dissent. It quickly became one of the most powerful and feared organizations in the Soviet Union. It played a central role in maintaining the regime's control over its citizens and countering external threats. During the Cold War, the KGB's influence extended far beyond the Soviet Union's borders. The agency was heavily involved in espionage activities targeting the United States and its allies. It sought to gather information on military capabilities, political strategies, and technological advancements. One of the most famous examples of KGB espionage during this period was the recruitment of Aldrich Ames. He was a CIA officer who provided the KGB with highly classified information for nearly a decade. Ames' betrayal led to the compromise of numerous CIA operations and the exposure of several American spies in the Soviet Union. The KGB also played a huge role in undercover operations aimed at destabilizing Western governments and spreading communist influence. These operations included funding and supporting communist parties and movements in various countries. It also included engaging in propaganda campaigns to undermine Western governments. It did all this while promoting the Soviet agenda. Also, the KGB was responsible for maintaining internal security within the Soviet Union. This involved monitoring and suppressing political protests, spying on suspected enemies of the state, and ensuring loyalty to the Communist Party. The KGB's methods were often brutal. The agency was known for its use of torture, imprisonment, and execution to eliminate threats to the regime. The eventual collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 marked the end of the KGB. However, its legacy and influence continued to shape Russian intelligence and security operations in the post-Soviet era. Many former KGB officers moved to new roles within the Russian government. This ensured a degree of continuity in the country's intelligence operations. While the KGB was the most well-known Soviet intelligence agency, it was not the only one. The GRU, or this complicated name on the screen right now, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, served as the Soviet Military Intelligence Agency. To this day, it continues to operate in modern-day Russia. The GRU was established even earlier in 1918 and played a crucial role in the Soviet Union and Russia. It gathered military intelligence, conducted covert operations, and supported Soviet military strategy. The GRU structure is organized into various directorates, each responsible for different aspects of military intelligence. These include the collection of human intelligence, or HUMINT, signals intelligence, or SIGINT, and electronic intelligence, or ELINT. The GRU also operated a network of military attachés stationed in embassies worldwide, who gather intelligence on foreign military capabilities and developments. Notable operations conducted by the GRU included the infiltration of NATO and Western military establishments during the Cold War, as well as support for Soviet and Russian military interventions in countries such as Afghanistan, Syria, and Ukraine. The GRU has also been linked to several high-profile cyber espionage campaigns, including the hacking of the Democratic National Committee during the 2016 US presidential election. Russia also has the FSB, known as the Federalnaya Sluzba Bezopasnosti. It is the main internal security agency of modern-day Russia. Established in 1995 as the successor to the KGB's domestic security forces, the FSB is responsible for counterintelligence, counterterrorism, and maintaining internal security. The FSB operates under the direct authority of the Russian president and plays a central role in protecting the country's national security. The FSB's activities include monitoring and suppressing political dissent, conducting surveillance on suspected terrorists and foreign spies, and preventing acts of sabotage and subversion. The agency is also involved in cybersecurity efforts, working to protect the Russian government and critical infrastructure from cyber threats. In recent years, the FSB has been implicated in several high-profile cases. This includes the poisoning of opposition leader Alexei Navalny and the alleged involvement in various cyber attacks targeting Western countries. As we can see, the history of espionage in Russia is long and complex, with roots stretching back centuries. From the early intelligence operations of the Oprichniki and the Preobrazhensky Prikaz to the rise of the KGB and the activities of the GRU and the FSB, Russia has developed a sophisticated and powerful intelligence tool. This rich history sets the stage for understanding the role and significance of Russia's new spy agency, the SSD. Let's dive into this latest Russian offering. The origin story of the Department of Special Tasks, also called the SSD, is a fascinating tale that starts in 2023. That year, global tensions were high, especially between Russia and the West over Ukraine. Russia felt the need to step up its game and created the SSD to operate with incredible efficiency and precision. It was created to target the West in ways that are both sophisticated and ruthless. The SSD wasn't built from the ground up. Instead, it brought together the best talents from various existing intelligence agencies. Imagine it like forming a supergroup of spies, analysts, and operatives, each bringing their unique skills to the table. By doing this, Russia aimed to streamline its operations and eliminate any roadblocks that could slow them down. Also, having seasoned vets guaranteed that the agency would hit the ground running, seeing as everyone already knew what they were doing. This new spy agency operates out of Moscow, in the Russian military intelligence headquarters. This sprawling glass and steel complex on the outskirts of Moscow, known as the Aquarium, is a strategic location. Firstly, it allows for smooth coordination with other intelligence and military units. It also provides a secure environment for planning and executing operations without interference. This centralization is very vital, seeing as the SSD has brought together elements of Russia's intelligence services. It has absorbed some powers of the FSB and absorbed Unit 29155. Unit 29155 is a Russian military intelligence unit associated with foreign assassinations and other activities aimed at destabilizing European countries. This makes its location even more vital, as it is now at the center of Russian espionage. To make this department even more dangerous, some of the most experienced officers in Russia's spy community are leading the SSD. At the helm of the SSD is Colonel General Andrei Vladimirovich Averyanov. Born in Ashgabat, Averyanov is a seasoned veteran with a long history in Russian military operations. He's the one steering the SSD ship. Before his current role, Averyanov was the commander of GRU Unit 29155. His transition to leading the SSD seems almost perfect, given his background in high-stakes covert operations. This man is so highly ranked that President Vladimir Putin awarded him Russia's highest honor, the Hero of Russia Medal. This happened following his involvement in the occupation and annexation of Crimea. Averyanov's name is associated with several high-profile missions, like the 2018 poisoning of Sergei Skripal in the UK. The Czech Republic has even issued a warrant for his arrest, suspecting him of involvement in the 2014 explosion at a Czech ammunition depot. Averyanov's network within the GRU is quite extensive, which is evident from personal connections. For instance, Anatoly Chepiga, one of the suspects in the Skripal poisoning, attended Averyanov's daughter's wedding in 2017. It's a close-knit circle, showing the tight bonds among operatives within the GRU and the SSD. Standing beside Averyanov as his right-hand man is Lieutenant General Ivan Sigirovich Kasyanenko. Kasyanenko's early career details might be mysterious, but his reputation in the intelligence community is rock solid. As Averyanov's deputy, Kasyanenko is a key player in coordinating and executing SSD operations. His fingerprints are all over the Skripal poisoning mission, but his expertise isn't limited to Europe. Kasyanenko has a significant presence in Africa as well. Following the death of Yevgeny Prigozhin in 2023, the SSD took over Wagner paramilitary operations in Africa. Kasyanenko was a major force behind these moves. His influence stretched across continents. In Africa, his tasks included providing security to military juntas and exploiting natural resources to fund operations. It's clear that the SSD's reach and impact under Kasyanenko's guidance are far-reaching. So the SSD isn't just a new name in the game. It's a formidable force with seasoned leaders like Averyanov and Kasyanenko who carry a legacy of aggressive spy tactics. They embody the continuity and evolution of Russia's spying prowess from the shadows of the Cold War to today's covert operations. Every detail about these figures and their roles within the SSD shows the capabilities and strategic ambitions of this new unit. Inside the SSD, the unit is divided into specialized departments, each of them focused on different aspects of espionage and covert operations. This specialization is what makes the SSD so effective, as each department hones its skills to perfection. For example, the Cyber Espionage Department handles all the hacking and cyber warfare. It infiltrates networks, stealing sensitive information and disrupting critical infrastructure. Then there's the Sabotage Operations Department, which takes care of physical sabotage. These operatives execute high-risk, maximum disruption missions. These include blowing up key infrastructure facilities or planning train derailments. They work closely with the cyber team to coordinate attacks that hit both digitally and physically. One of the most secretive parts of the SSD is the Assassination Unit. These operatives are tasked with eliminating high-value targets that threaten Russia's interests. Their missions are well-planned and executed with precision. They often leave no trace of their involvement at all. Another crucial department is the Disinformation and Propaganda Wing. This team spreads false information and propaganda to confuse and destabilize adversaries. They create and spread fake news, manipulating social media. All of this is done to undermine public trust in government institutions. Then there's the Intelligence Analysis Division. It's responsible for collecting, analyzing, and interpreting intelligence from various sources. They provide the strategic insight that guides the SSD's operations. This ensures that every move is based on accurate and up-to-date information. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, who does these tasks and how do they get in? Well, getting into the SSD is no easy feat. As you might imagine, recruitment is highly selective. Mainly, operatives are handpicked from the elite ranks of other intelligence agencies and military units. The selection process is tough, involving deep testing, interviews, and background checks. Only the most skilled and loyal individuals make the cut. Once recruited, operatives undergo extensive training to prepare them for unique challenges of working in the SSD. This training includes advanced courses in spy techniques, cyber warfare, sabotage tactics, and psychological operations. They also learn foreign languages and cultures to blend in seamlessly during overseas missions. The training is designed to be physically and mentally demanding. This pushes operatives to their limits to ensure they can handle the stress and pressure of high-stakes missions. The SSD operates under a strict code of conduct that emphasizes loyalty, secrecy, and efficiency. Operatives are expected to maintain the highest standards of professionalism and integrity. Any breach of this code is met with severe consequences. Within the SSD, there's a strong sense of camaraderie and mutual support. Operatives rely on each other for support and guidance. This creates a tight-knit community that functions like a well-oiled machine. Regular team-building exercises and collaborative missions reinforce this sense of unity. Patriotism and duty drive the SSD's ethos. Operatives are deeply committed to protecting Russia's interests and advancing its geopolitical goals. This commitment drives them to take on the most dangerous and challenging missions, often at great personal risk. One thing that sets the SSD apart is its use of cutting-edge technology. This unit has access to the latest advancements in cyber warfare, surveillance, and communication technologies. This technological edge gives the SSD a significant advantage in both offensive and defensive operations. The Cyber Espionage Department, in particular, is at the forefront of innovation. They use advanced hacking tools and techniques. This helps them infiltrate secure networks, steal classified information, and launch cyber attacks. These tools are constantly updated to stay ahead of adversaries' defenses. Alongside cyber technology, the SSD also uses complex spy equipment to monitor and track targets. This includes satellite imagery, drones, and other state-of-the-art devices that provide real-time intelligence. Combining human expertise and technological prowess makes the SSD a formidable force in the world of espionage. So with their structure out of the way, let's take a look at the objectives and mandate of the SSD. This is where we get into the heart of what the SSD is all about and why it was created. What does Putin have in mind exactly? The SSD's primary objective is to conduct operations that disrupt and destabilize Western nations. Think of it as Russia's way of pushing back against what they perceive as Western influence and interference. Their presence is particularly central in areas like Ukraine. The SSD operates under the broader umbrella of the GRU, so let's talk more about that. One of the main areas the SSD focuses on is what we are talking about just a few minutes ago: cyber espionage. In today's world, cyber warfare is a major battlefield, and the SSD has a whole department dedicated to it. These operatives are like the tech wizards of spying. They hack into networks, steal sensitive information, and even disrupt critical infrastructure. Imagine them infiltrating government databases or disrupting power grids. Their reach and impact can be profound. The techniques they use are highly sophisticated and are constantly evolving to stay ahead of security measures. Let's take a look at some recent events that show the power of cyber warfare and its destructive capability. By seeing the chaos it causes, we can start to understand why the SSD is making such an effort in this department. First up, we have the Salt Typhoon attacks. In November of 2024, Chinese hackers known as Salt Typhoon hacked into at least 8 US telecommunication providers. They didn't stop there. They also targeted telecom companies in over 20 other countries. These hackers managed to steal customer call data and data from law enforcement surveillance requests. They even managed to steal private communication of people involved in government or political activities. This shows just how far-reaching and invasive cyber espionage can be. Next, we have the Iranian hackers. These guys have been going after the aerospace, defense, and aviation industries in Israel, the UAE, Turkey, India, and Albania. They posed as recruiters on LinkedIn, offering fake, lucrative job offers to distribute malware. Their goal was to spy on targets and steal sensitive data. This campaign started in 2023 and continued into 2024, proving how persistent and targeted these attacks can be. Then there's the case of the Russian cyber attacks on Ukraine. In October of 2024, Russian agents sent bomb threat emails to nearly 60 Ukrainian embassies and state agencies worldwide. On top of that, Russian cybercriminals sent information-stealing malware to Ukrainian draft-aged men. This was done to mess with Ukraine's military recruitment efforts. It's a clear example of how cyber attacks can be used to disrupt and destabilize a country. All these examples show just why the SSD is investing deeply in cyber warfare. Another critical area that the SSD is focusing on is physical sabotage. This involves operations aimed at damaging or destroying key facilities in target countries. For example, they might target energy infrastructure, transportation networks, or military installations. These are high-risk missions that require meticulous planning and execution. The goal is to cause maximum disruption and chaos, making it harder for the target country to function smoothly. Next up, we have the Assassination Unit. This group deals with eliminating high-profile individuals who are seen as threats to Russia's interests. These targets could be political leaders, activists, dissidents, or even foreign operatives. The assassinations are carried out with precision, often leaving no trace of the SSD's involvement. It's a dark and dangerous aspect of their operations, but one that is viewed as necessary to protect Russia's strategic goals. We'll talk more about this goal when we get into the real examples of the dark atrocities that the SSD has committed later on in the video. Disinformation and propaganda are also key components of the SSD's mandate. This involves spreading false information and propaganda to sow discord and confusion within target societies. They use various channels to disseminate fake news, manipulate social media, and conduct psychological operations. The aim is to weaken public trust in government institutions and create a sense of instability and uncertainty. Intelligence gathering is another vital function of the SSD. They collect and analyze information on the activities and intentions of Western governments, military forces, and intelligence agencies. This intelligence is crucial for planning and executing their operations. It provides the strategic insights needed to make informed decisions and stay one step ahead of their adversaries. So, you see, the SSD's mandate and objectives reflect Russia's broader geopolitical strategy. It's about gaining an advantage in the global arena and countering perceived threats from the West. Understanding these motivations really gives us an insight into the lengths Russia is willing to go to assert its influence. So, outside of broad generalizations, what has this department done since its start? Sure, it's new, but with a star-studded lineup like this, it has to have been very busy, right? Yes, it has. One of the first major incidents that brought the SSD into the spotlight was the arrest of a Wall Street Journal reporter in Russia on spy charges. This happened in April of 2023, and it was a big deal because it involved a high-profile international journalist. The SSD orchestrated the arrest, accusing the reporter of gathering sensitive information about Russian military activities on behalf of Western intelligence agencies. This incident not only drew international attention, but also showed the SSD's role in countering Western intelligence efforts. It sent a clear message that Russia was willing to take drastic measures to protect its secrets and interests. Another of the SSD's notable cases involved an assassination attempt on Amir Paperger. He is the CEO of German arms manufacturer Rheinmetall.
A Russian plot to assassinate the boss of a German weapons manufacturer was foiled earlier this year thanks to U.S. intelligence. That is according to CNN. The broadcaster claims Armin Paperger, the chief executive of Rheinmetall, was among defense industry executives across Europe targeted by the Kremlin. U.S. intelligence services passed details of the plan to German authorities. Paperger has been a high-profile supporter of Ukraine's war effort, and his company has produced artillery shells and military vehicles.
The plot to kill Paperger was part of a series of Russian government plans to assassinate defense industry executives across Europe who were supporting Ukraine's war effort. Given Rheinmetall's war effort, it was bound to be on the list. It is one of the world's biggest producers of artillery and tank shells. Since the invasion of Ukraine started, it has been ramping up production to better help Ukraine. This operation showcased the SSD's sophisticated planning and aggressive tactics. Due to the US's involvement, fortunately, the SSD's plan was discovered and stopped. Although the attempt was unsuccessful, it showed the SSD's capability in high-profile operations. The SSD has also been involved in sabotage activities targeting key facilities in Western countries. For example, they planned cyber attacks that disrupted power grids and communication networks. This caused temporary blackouts and communication breakdowns. The SSD operatives also set fire to a Berlin factory owned by Diehl, a company supplying Ukraine with weapons. Other incidents tied to the SSD include an arson attempt on a Polish shopping mall, a bomb explosion in a French hotel, and a failed Russian plot to burn supermarkets and cafes in Ukraine. As if all of this isn't enough, the SSD has been suspected of planting bombs in transit hubs. In particular, there was a plot involving incendiary devices placed in packages on cargo planes headed to North America. The plot resulted in packages catching fire at a courier hub in Germany, and another incident where a package ignited in a warehouse in England. These attacks were part of a wider campaign of sabotage by Russia targeting Ukraine's allies. What makes it worse is that this wasn't the final plan. It is suspected that these were just trial runs for a future, larger attempt to target and destroy North American-bound planes. Another significant operation was a series of bomb attacks on Ukrainian draft offices in late 2023. These attacks were well-planned and executed to disrupt Ukraine's mobilization efforts. By targeting draft offices, the SSD aimed to disrupt Ukraine's recruitment abilities. These bombings caused chaos and fear. This further complicated the mobilization process and affected Ukraine's military readiness. Besides these high-profile incidents, the SSD has been involved in many other covert operations. They might not always make headlines, but they are equally as dangerous. These include various intelligence gathering missions, disinformation campaigns, and smaller-scale sabotage efforts. Each of these operations is carefully planned and executed to further Russia's strategic goals. All the while, it undermines the stability and security of its adversaries. All these incidents have not taken place unnoticed. Western nations have taken several measures to counter the SSD's presence and activities. Cybersecurity, for one, has been significantly enhanced. Governments the world over have increased investment in protecting critical infrastructure and sensitive information. In 2024, global spending on information security is estimated to have been $183.9 billion USD. In 2025, global spending on information security is projected to be $212 billion. That is a huge increase. Together with private companies, they are working together to build more resilient systems and defenses. Also, when it comes to intelligence, agencies from NATO's member states and other allied countries have also ramped up their cooperation and information sharing efforts. This collaboration aims to better understand and respond to the SSD's operations. By pooling their resources and expertise, these agencies hope to stay ahead of the SSD and mitigate its impact. Diplomatic pressure has also been applied to address the activities of the SSD. Western nations have used diplomatic channels to demand transparency from Russia on its spy efforts. On the other hand, high-level meetings have taken place, with diplomats seeking to coordinate actions against the SSD. These diplomatic efforts are aimed at isolating Russia on the international stage. They are also meant to increase the costs of its covert operations and make them unsustainable. By presenting a united front, countries can send a clear message that such activities will not be tolerated. In response to the SSD's disinformation campaigns, Western nations have launched their own countermeasure disinformation efforts. These initiatives involve identifying and exposing false information, promoting accurate reporting, and educating the public about the dangers of propaganda. Social media platforms have also played a crucial role in fighting disinformation by implementing policies to detect and remove fake accounts, bots, and misleading content. By addressing the spread of false information, these efforts aim to reduce the impact of the SSD's psychological operations and maintain public trust in government institutions. We can tell you about the bots firsthand. This channel has suffered heavily because of them. Economic sanctions and diplomatic pressures have been applied to hold Russia accountable for its espionage activity. These measures are intended to deter further SSD operations and signal international disapproval. While the effectiveness of these actions is yet to be seen, they represent a united effort by the international community to push back against the SSD's activities. But despite these efforts, the SSD remains a formidable adversary. Its sophisticated operations, advanced technology, and skilled operatives make it a significant challenge for the international community. As the SSD continues to evolve and adapt, so too must the strategies and measures employed to counter its activities. Ongoing vigilance, cooperation, and innovation will be essential in addressing the threat posed by the SSD and ensuring global security. So, with all of this said, how do people view the SSD within Russia's own borders? Well, the public perception of the SSD, or the Department of Special Tasks, is quite mixed in Russia. People have different feelings about it, depending on their experiences and their views. On one hand, many Russians see the SSD as a necessary tool for national security. They think it's crucial for protecting the country from foreign threats and internal dissent. This belief comes from Russia's long history of dealing with external adversaries and political instability. The government helped shape this perception by portraying the SSD as a patriotic and essential organization. They emphasize the SSD's role in safeguarding the nation, which makes people feel it's a vital part of their security. However, there's also a sense of fear and mistrust when it comes to the SSD. Some people are aware of the agency's repressive tactics and involvement in covert operations. This makes them worry about the potential for abuse of power. These individuals might view the SSD with suspicion, concerned about its impact on their freedoms and their privacy. The media portrayal of the SSD is heavily influenced by state control and censorship. Since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the Russian media has faced a severe crackdown. Independent journalism has been restricted. And media outlets that don't align with the government's narrative are often labeled as foreign agents or undesirable organizations. This has created a media environment where the SSD is depicted in a way that supports the state's agenda. For instance, the media often highlights the SSD's involvement in various covert operations, such as sabotage activities and cyber espionage, as necessary actions to protect Russia from external threats. They present the SSD operatives as heroes, working tirelessly to defend the nation's interests. This framing helps justify the government's actions and maintain public support for its security measures. However, independent and international media often provide a different perspective. They report on the SSD's involvement in controversial operations, like assassination attempts and disinformation campaigns. These reports emphasize the agency's repressive tactics and raise questions about its methods. As a result, some segments of the population may have a more critical view of the SSD, seeing it as a tool for state repression rather than national defense.